We will call our meeting to order at this time. We will stand for our invocation and our pledge of allegiance. To our precious Creator, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for another opportunity to be of service. We ask that you come in this meeting. If there's anything that stand in the place that will prevent you from speaking to us and through us, we ask that you clean us out, that we will be able to be worthy to receive of your instructions. We ask that you continue to cover this precious city, to protect it from all hurt, harm, and danger. We ask that any weapons that may form, that you will cast them down before they have any chance of causing any harm. We welcome you into this meeting to please have your way, so that the city of Florence can be the best neighbor that it can be to all those who are surrounding and all those who we are here to serve. Thank you for this day. Thank you for your presence. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, as you take a look at your agendas, if there's no objection, I would like to move resolution number 2027 forward. It's a resolution to declare the month of June as home ownership month in the city of Florence. We do have a recipient here, so if there's no objection, I would like to move that forward to come after our educational recognition. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we will move resolution number 2027 to come after our educational recognition. At this time on our agenda, we have approval of minutes. Minutes from April 29th, 2024, which was a workshop section. Then May 13, 2024, which was a special meeting. Then we have May 13, 2024, which was also a regular meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that the minutes have passed. Next, we will move forward with our honors and recognitions. First, we'll have our service recognition. We have Mr. Charlie, make sure I do Jernigan, and he is celebrating 50 years as an equipment maintenance here in the city of Florence. Will you please come forward along with your director?
Mr. Charlie Jernigan began his 50-year career with the city of Florence on June 17, 1974 as a mechanic 2 in the Public Works Department. In July of 91, Charlie was reclassified to auto mechanic 2. During his career, he's been responsible for the maintenance of all city fleet vehicles and equipment. However, Charlie has notably been responsible for the city's police department vehicles. Since 91, Charlie has served the city in many capacities, including acting equipment maintenance manager in 2020 during a crucial period when the division was in between managers and COVID-19 was causing turmoil in the auto parts industry. During this stint as acting division manager, Charlie's knowledge of employees in automotive and equipment maintenance was essential to the success of all departments within the organization, keeping the city's fleet running to provide services to our residents. Throughout his tenure, he's achieved many certifications, and due to the extensive nature of this list, I'm not going to go through them all, but he has about 18 different Florence Darlington Technical College certifications through Sun Electric Corporation, NAPA, Ford, Hydrotex, Federal Mobile Technical Education Center, CarQuest Technical Institute, and Standard Motor Products. Charlie's dedication and service to the city of Florence has been nothing short of remarkable. He can always be counted on to volunteer on various committees, notably the city's Wellness Committee and Employee Management Organizational Improvement Program. Charlie's continued passion for his work, the people in the organization consistently embody the city's mission statement and core values. The city has been extremely fortunate to keep such a beacon in the organization for an extensive period of time. Please join me by recognizing Mr. Charlie.
Everybody's always asked me when I'm going to retire. I did retire 17 years ago. I just never left. I was in one of the ones where I didn't have to leave, and so I stayed around for a while. People ask me, well, do you work hard with the city? I said, no, I grew up on a farm, and I haven't worked hard since I left there. Do I stay busy? Yeah, I do stay busy. Why I stayed? Because I enjoyed my job. If I hadn't, I would have been gone a long time ago. I've had other job opportunities. I actually went and looked at them, but none of them was what I wanted, so I stayed with us at the city for 50 years. Everybody still wants to know when to retire. I told them it's probably going to be this year. I don't know whether there's anyone else has ever made it 50 years or not. If yes, I haven't met them. But I've enjoyed the time here, and it's a good place to work. So.
And Mr. Charlie, I'm asking that you please don't leave yet. I'm actually come back down here.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe we have a special recognition from Congressman Fry to office, so I'm asking that representative to please come forward.
I want to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to be here today for this presentation during your city council meeting. In recognition of Mr. Jernigan's 50 years of dedicated service to the city of Florence, Congressman Russell Fry has asked that I come here today to present the following certificate and flag. And the certificate reads as follows. This is to certify that the company flag was flown over the United States Capitol at the request of the Honorable Congressman Russell Fry, presented to Charlie Jernigan in recognition and honor of your 50 years of service to the city of Florence. Thank you so much for your dedication to this community.
Yes, sir. Everything, see what we finish with your time. Thank you, Mr. Charlie. And thank you for coming. I just will stay down there. I'll let you just call the days.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Randy Hatchell. Randy Hatchell began his 20-year career on June 21st, 2004 in the Streets Division of the Public Works Department. Prior to his employment, Randy spent a summer working in the summer youth program where he learned valuable skills in grounds and facilities maintenance. This experience led to his decision to choose the city of Florence for full-time employment. During the course of his career, Randy's earned many certifications through the American Heart Association, the SC Department of Corrections, Workzone Safety through the Institute for Transportation Research and Education, as well as many other OSHA-related certifications. Randy's first position with the city was a maintenance worker, where Randy served as a team member of the crew responsible for maintaining city streets and green spaces. 9 months later, Randy was promoted to a special equipment operator, where he was able to expand his knowledge of right-of-way maintenance, equipment operating skills, and special projects. His ability to learn quickly, operate equipment safely, efficiently, and effectively, as well as produce quality work, proved Randy had the skill set to take another step forward in his career. In May 2006, Randy was promoted to team leader. As a team leader, Randy led a crew of 3 to 5 team members responsible for maintenance of city streets, sidewalks, right-of-ways, green spaces, and other miscellaneous tasks. Randy's 4 years of experience as a team leader was key in the development of his leadership and team building skills. Randy continued to further his capabilities and showed a knack for being a leader amongst his peers, resulting in yet another promotion. In July 2010, Randy was promoted to team leader, equipment operator, and transferred to the Parks Division of Public Works. During his time as team leader, equipment operator, his duties included perpetual care and oversight of the maintenance at the Florence Veterans Park, special construction projects, citywide turf management initiatives, and other tasks that required skilled and quality work. Randy's ability to troubleshoot, solve problems, think analytically, as well as being involved and very hands-on with every task assigned led him to his latest role within the organization. After several years of interviews and searching for a suitable candidate for the Sanitation Division Superintendent, it was determined that Randy had the skills and knowledge to take on a larger role in the organization, which led to the promotion to Sanitation Superintendent in August 2021. As sanitation superintendent, Randy leads a team of 34 employees that provide essential services in the areas of residential garbage and recycling collection, commercial dumpster service, and yard waste collection. Randy's truly an asset to the city of Florence as an organization and the Florence community. He can be counted on to work diligently each day to ensure that sanitation services are provided to all residents in a thorough and conscientious manner. Randy is the epitome of an employee who follows our mission statement and utilizes our core values. The city of Florence thanks Randy for his 20 years of service and look forward to what he can accomplish in the future. Please join me in thanking Randy.
Good job, Randy.
Charlie, is Mr. Did we have Thomas? Reginald next. I'm used to Amanda being there calling us out. I'm not gonna go back up there, y'all. Next we have Mr. Reginald Bridges with 20 years of service from our fire department. Start with you, Cole.
As the mayor said, we're honoring Chief Bridges here for 20 years of service for the fire department. However, he's got more than 20 years of service. He started his fire service career in the Navy, where he served 8 years in the George Washington, the aircraft carrier George Washington, where he was a crash rescue guy. After that, after leaving the Navy, he went to the Charleston Fire Department in the year 2000, where he served there for 4 years. He came to Florence in 2004 as a certified firefighter, and 5.5 years later, he was promoted to captain, which is unusual because the fact of the matter is, we typically have a rank structure. You go from firefighter to driver, then to captain. That's a promotional rank. But there was a short time there when we had some exceptional people that we've done away with that promotion process. So Reggie was one of the first and the only handful of guys that's ever promoted from firefighter all the way to captain without going through that rank. So that was an accomplishment within itself. He served as a captain at Station 2, which is on Marion Street, for about 14 years. He done that until he was just recently promoted to battalion chief, where he serves now as the Shift 1 supervisor. Now, as a battalion chief, he's responsible for all the personnel in his shift, all the equipment, all the stations, running all the calls and the supervisor for 24 hours. He's assigned there. He's been doing that for the past 6 months, and he's doing an outstanding job. So if you will, just help to congratulate Chief Reggie Bridges on his 20 years.
Next we have Justin Head.
We're here to recognize Lieutenant Head for 15 years of service to the City of Florence Police Department. Lieutenant Justin Head began his career with Florence Police Department in June of 2009. He served as a patrol officer for almost 4 years before he was promoted and moved to the Criminal Investigations Division. During his 7 years in this unit, Justin rose to the rank of corporal and became a successful and well-respected criminal investigator. In 2019, Justin's initiative and disciplined work ethic earned him a promotion to sergeant overseeing the codes enforcement unit. In this role, Justin continued to exceed by advancing the programs and procedures that we continue to build upon today. In 2021, Justin was reassigned to be a supervisor overseeing training for the entire department. Justin immediately began advancing the department's training methods while also implementing new and improved training standards. His dedication to ensuring that officers be trained appropriately have exceeded the standards required by police accreditation and the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. Just this past September, Justin was promoted to the rank of lieutenant and was reassigned to the information technology unit, which I'm sure Captain Sullivan was very excited about. In this role, Justin continues to be innovative by integrating new technology that increases the abilities of the department to provide safe and effective service to the community. Justin has been integral in the deployment of the city's flock camera system, along with a plethora of other projects that keep the department operational on a daily basis. And I can tell you that just before we came in here today, about an hour ago, we were able to capture a attempted murder suspect out in North Charleston who was in the flock camera system. Justin has served for several years on the department's emergency response team and is currently a commander for the team. He has utilized his passion for training to assist in building the team's capabilities while promoting safe and effective tactical operations of the unit. Lieutenant Justin Head is a highly valued member of the Florence Police Department, and we recognize and congratulate him for 15 years of dedicated service.
Congratulations. That's all over.
So thank you to all of our employees for your years of service, and to Mr. Charlie, congratulations on 50 years. Thank you. So at this time, we will move forward with our recognition for education. And when I proceed down, I will ask our city manager, please call out the individuals who will be receiving these here.
Madam Mayor, we have Ms. Hannah Davis receiving Main Street America Revitalization Professional Certification.
So Hannah has received her Main Street America Revitalization Professional Certification. This is a very labor-intensive certification. It took her 3 years to go through the whole process, take all the classes, and then she finally received the certification last month. So this is something that within the Main Street world, which is the organization that our city and the Downtown Development Corporation is a part of, this is something that is very limited. Only 2 people in South Carolina have this certification, and only around 150 people total in America have it. So it is something to be very proud of. Hannah has obviously been very instrumental in the growth and development of our downtown, and this is just one more thing to help push downtown and move us forward. So we should all take a minute here to recognize Hannah and her accomplishment and thank her for it.
And I do want to acknowledge not only Hannah, but also Clint for the dedication they do with Florence Downtown Development Corporation. When we went through the process of being evaluated for the Great American Main Street Award, it required a lot of both of them and the team, but they were faithful for it, and we brought home that award. So Hannah, I want to personally thank both of you, but Hannah, thank you for you going forward so that you will be an educator who will now teach other cities to replicate what we're doing. So congratulations, thank you.
That's all education.
Trish. I'd like to say something.
You want to say something?
Yes. Ms. Hannah, you can't escape without me saying something. I know you're trying to make that fast exit out, but for those who don't know it, not only is Hannah so instrumental with regard to all of the activities taking place in downtown, new businesses, but I have the pleasure of working with Hannah almost on a daily basis, it seems like, with regard to the Pecan Festival. And the Pecan Festival, while it's a Florence Downtown Development Corporation-owned event, is handled through the downtown City of Florence downtown office. And Hannah and her team manage it, and I'm just going to say, manage it with professionalism, with flair, and ever increasing effort to sharpen the saw and make it better every year. And it's your dedication to that, it's your passion that you bring to the table, and all that hard sweat work and equity that you put out there every time to make it all happen. And I know you drag your husband John along and make him work too. But thank you so much for all that you do. And people need to understand, when you see Pecan Festival, thank Hannah.
Next, we will proceed with our appearances before council. And at this time, I would ask that each presenter, which we have one today, that you limit your presentation to 5 minutes. And that's according to our ordinance from our codes from section number 2-2024H. So at this time, we will call for Ms. Suzanne Lewis-Shell to speak to the council regarding community safety.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. It is one of our great democratic rights, freedom of speech. I have been under the weather, and I did not prepare a speech, so I'm going to keep my remarks short because I didn't want to no-show. I think a lot about our community. I think a lot about this perception of crime in our community, and I spend a lot of time trying to problem solve to help our community. I personally think that our police department is doing a very good job, is doing the best job they can under the circumstances they are working under. In my research over the weekend, what I found that this national perception that crime is increasing is actually a fallacy. I'm not going to go into the data. You can research it. You'll see that I'm telling the truth. But what I also learned, that if you want to decrease crime, it's all about perception. Our politicians are really excellent using perception to get a point across. But the newest study I read from March of 24th stated that if people who are thinking about committing a crime perceive that they are going to be caught, they're less likely to commit that crime. That increased penalties for committing a crime doesn't decrease crime, because when someone is committing a crime, they're not thinking about the penalty. But they don't want to be caught. So if individuals perceive that they will be caught, crime will decrease, according to this most recent study. So I thought that was interesting, and I was at some event this week, and I think I was talking to Reverend Beatty, and he was talking about how he went on this police ride, and there's these cameras now in town that can detect violations, which will decrease crime, because if people know they're going to get caught, they're less likely to commit crime. The last thing I want to say is, when our state legislature legislates laws that allow people to hate other people and create problems that do not exist, we're not decreasing crime. So in this last legislative branch, we are criminalizing women's reproductive rights. What is that going to end up doing? The back alley in North Charleston for illegal abortions. It's going to increase crime. We've just legislated these anti-LGBT, you know what I'm talking about, rules. That is going to increase crime because it's making some other group other, and it's giving people permission to attack other people because they are less than them. Tomorrow is election day. Elections have consequences. I encourage everyone to vote. The polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. LaFleur. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Barnes.
I want to thank Miss Suzanne La Rochelle for coming forth with crime, because that's one of my talking points. I was just at an event, and I think Miss La Rochelle was there, and I gave 5 points to a crime plan, because you're right. We've got to deter crime. We can't be reacting. We've got to be pro. So I want to just give just a few minutes of the 5-point plan to crime, and that's, we want to bring back our CAT team.
Councilwoman, at this time, do you have a question for Ms. La Rochelle? That's where we're at from the public.
I'm
not-
giving a statement.
Well, no, at this time,
We are bringing back
at
our
this time,
CAT team.
I will have to object. We're in a portion where if you want to ask a question of Ms. Rochelle, you're welcome. But any statements to that, you need to present outside of this. This is for her questioning. So at that time, we're going to move forward with our agenda.
I'd like to ask council.
I would like to ask our attorney, is Mr. Ziegler, this is not, not on our agenda. We're in public hearing. A citizen came forth. This is a time to question them.
Okay, so
And
if
so,
I give my 5 points, I can ask
attorney,
her.
Yes, ma'am. So you're asking me if the councilwoman is entitled to
give a
make
political
statement.
speech.
You know, this is an interesting circumstance because, as everyone here knows, when appearances are made before council, they're almost always followed by statements by council members, dialogue between council members and the person appearing before council. So we're not within the contemplation of Robert's Rules of Order. There's no rule of order that governs this type of interchange. I will say that what seems to be the custom here is that council members are allowed to say something, including asking questions, make statements, etc. So I don't see what the councilwoman is doing as being out of order legally. It's more of really what this comes down to, because we're outside of Robert's rules. This comes down to what is customary and acceptable to council as a whole.
So we need to bring Ms. La Rochelle forward. So if the councilwoman is going to make a statement, Ms. La Rochelle will have the opportunity to reply. Ms. La Rochelle, please come back forward, because the councilwoman.
Not necessarily.
Well, since we're outside of Robert's Rules of Order, Ms. Rochelle, you brought this forward. So I'm going to ask, since we're outside anyway, you come forward. So when the councilwoman give her statement or question to you, you can respond. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Barnes.
I'm in agreement with what you said. What you said was, we need to make sure we put things in place to deter crime. And this, bringing back the CAT team, bringing more visibility for our officers in the community, to creating incentives for policemen to live in the community. I grew up in a community where there were 4 policemen. And so I did not have a fear of police. I saw them as being a part of the family. The second initiative was we want to do a gun buyback program, which I think is good. It gets guns off of the street. Second, when we had the big town hall, it was brought up that we should do something with Camp Fever. And our Camp Fever, I would like to rename that Sergeant Caraway, Camp Caraway. And that is to actually get our young people involved and allow them to be a part and not on the other side. Then lastly, cracking down on the enforcement of those businesses that are allowing high volumes of crime to happen right out of their businesses. That is something that I am in agreement with what you just stated. So it was not to contradict what you were saying, it was to actually agree. We've got to do our best to make sure that we eliminate the opportunity of crime. And so, thank you for that.
Ms. LaRochelle, do you have any response to the?
I have some.
Ms. LaRochelle, do you have any response to Councilwoman Barnes at this time for any information that you've heard?
I am familiar with some of the initiatives that she is proposing. I would have to really study them better to make any type of comment. I am not an expert. But I recognize that this is a part of your campaign speech. I've heard it several times now. So I recognize you are campaigning. And when you campaign...
Point of order.
That's all.
Point of order.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman for point of order.
We are here to address crime. We are here to address crime. We understand that you work on a campaign, but right now we are addressing crime, and we've got to stay focused on crime and fixing and solving that problem. This is not an opportunity for you to do anything else. You are not an expert on crime. And so I think we should move forward. We are not asking for expert opinion. Give a statement and let's move forward. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Back to Ms. LaRochelle, until we resolve here, then I would recognize. Ms. LaRochelle was in the middle of a statement. Ms. Rochelle, please, and I would ask that you defer or not refer to her campaign.
I am not a paid member of any campaign, to make that very clear. Second, I think I stated that I am not an expert on crime. I am a clinical social worker. I work with many victims of crime.
Does that complete your statement, Ms. LaRochelle? At
Yes.
this time, Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Thank you. With regard to the 5-point that was brought up by Councilwoman Barnes, I'd like to ask our city manager about the feasibility of implementing some of these. So if you don't mind coming forward, Scotty, because obviously it needs to be handled, you know, these points would need to be administered and handled through the city manager's office. So I'd like to just get some clarity on that. Councilwoman Barnes raised the point of, I guess, identifying the ability to bring back community policing, whether it's the CAT team or something else. Would you mind speaking to that and what the community policing is, the CAT team, and how that could work? And is that something feasible in some form or fashion?
Sure, and we, right now, I think we have about 3 officers who are part of that community action team. Those officers are ingrained and embedded into the community. They are generally there and not working, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure the chief will correct me there, but they generally are assigned to those communities, get out of the car, work with the community, so you'll have one-on-one interactions with the community there. That's certainly something that we've done in the past. We're down now about 10 officers. It's a little difficult for us now, not that we haven't tried, as you know, and we've talked about salaries, and I thank the council for increasing salaries of our police officers. It started about $50,500 now for certified officers, and we're doing everything we can to continue to increase that, along with other staff members as well.
Do we have the ability to grow that part of our police force, the community policing?
The ability to grow the department. That community policing, that's certainly something that we can look at doing.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the second point.
Before you leave that point, Councilman, let me also clarify. With the community action team, when we first started that.
If you please, Madam Mayor, I'm in the middle of something. After you finish, you're welcome to say anything you like, but please don't interrupt me in the middle of mine. Thank you.
You're on the subject of the community action team,
I'm on the
correct?
subject of going over these 5 points. Afterwards, you're welcome to say anything you like when it's your turn.
Well, I'm
Thank
not
you.
arguing with you, Councilman. Point of order. The topic right now is community action
No, ma'am.
policing,
The topic
correct?
right now I have the floor. I have the floor, and you're trying to take that.
No,
If-
what I
once
want-
once I finish,
Okay, Councilman.
once I finish, you're welcome to say
No,
anything you
Councilman,
like.
one moment. what I'm going to do, I'm going to yield the floor for you. But at the same token, this is appearance before council segment. This is not a topic section. So what we're at right now, as stated by our city attorney, we're outside the rules, Robert Rules of Order. So let's make that clear. We're outside of the Robert Rules of Order. So you don't even have a particular legal basis for what we're going to have now. So what I will do, as the leader of this meeting, I will yield for you to ask the questions for the 5 points, but know that we're outside of Robert Rules of Order for the record.
Thank you. So going to the next point, which is, that was raised about the creating an incentives for the officers to actually live. What opportunity might there be for us to do that as a council to pick up on the point that was raised?
If we're creating opportunities for the officers to live in the neighborhoods,
The neighborhoods where they can have more visibility, and I think that was the point that was raised, was to be able to deter crime potentially by having more visibility, and Councilwoman Barnes raised that as her second point.
Right.
And I'm just asking you about the feasibility of doing that.
Point of order. Livability was not stated in the second point, so that was not stated.
That
On this
exactly-
point of order.
Yes, it is.
So
That
moving
exactly
forward.
was creating
Moving
incentives for
forward.
the police to live inside these districts. That's exactly what you said. Go ahead,
Well, I
please.
did not hear that from her. Go ahead, Councilman.
so if we're looking at creating those incentives for employees to, or police officers particularly, to live in districts, I think we would have to identify those areas there and then set aside a dollar amount, something that would allow someone to make that decision to live in those areas. You probably talking $500 or more there that you would have to set aside, and we'd have to put a cap on that, how many people, because obviously it'll be budgetary implications there. So $500, $6,000 a year per person, and then we would work with the chief, and I would have to, and the finance director, to work to find that in some budgets.
Is that something that could be looked into?
We certainly can look into
All right,
that.
thank you. And the third item was a gun back the buyback. Is that something also that's feasible and that your office could look into?
And Chief has spoken to that in the past. He's looked into that in the past. And there are other communities that are doing buyback programs there. And we could certainly make that. Again, those are all budgetary. We would have to have and set a dollar amount per gun, and it's kind of no questions asked. You have a drop-off point, and you provide funding or some type of financial incentive to that person. And again, that would have a budgetary impact, but we certainly can do that.
Okay, and then the fourth item was Camp Fever. And for those who are unfamiliar with what Camp Fever was, I know you were very familiar with it.
Right.
Would you mind giving us a brief kind of summary of what Camp Fever was? I know it was run by the police department and
Yeah.
beautifully, and really did have a tremendous impact on our community, on the youth. But if you don't mind, Scotty, just giving us a brief on that.
So Camp Fever is a program initiated by our police department several years ago. Talked about Sergeant Caraway, who was very instrumental in that and led up that program, and it was done at Camp Sexton that has now been purchased. And we had a lot of officers several years ago that worked with young men and women within our community and took them out into the woods, showed them life skills, and talked about life a little bit and all those things and making right decisions there. We had a lot of volunteers in the department now doing that. The chief and I, again, have talked about that over the years. He's talked about that. Right now, certainly, and most of us who've worked at the city understands Caraway. Getting someone to head that program up, you have to have a heart for children. And certainly that's something I think the chief will have to look into and find that particular person to head that up. I have all the respect for our men and women in blue, and I'm sure there's someone out there who's willing. We have a number of officers here now, I don't want to put him on the spot, but certainly I think that he would find a right fit for that. Again, it has to be, because you're filling big shoes when you talk about what we've done over the years in Camp Fever there, and to start that back up would certainly take the right personnel to do that.
But again, is that something that, working with Chief, and is that something the
Location
office
will be
could look into?
We certainly can look into it. We'll have to find a location, as I talked about. Camp Sexton is now privately owned, so we'd have to have a location. Once that is done, personnel and finding right personnel and right fit.
And I do, and this is just me personally, I do think the idea of renaming it in honor of Sergeant Caraway, in memory of him, as Camp Caraway, I would certainly encourage, Chief, you and your officers and the city manager to consider that. The last item that was raised by Councilman Barnes was trying to enforce, and I guess it's enforcing the laws that are already on the books with regard to these businesses, where you see just this hub of criminal activity seem to take place, as well as maybe some landlords that have, again, with the rental registry, there's some enforcement opportunities. And I don't know if, Chief, if you want to come up and address that as well, how can we try to address some of the enforcement in this area?
Well, I think we're trying to do a lot of that right now, and specifically with the flock cameras. I'd like to expand that actually at some point. As I told you earlier, we were able to arrest an individual from North Charleston that was wanted for that. And we're looking into the rental registry. It is massive effort because we believe that there's a number of people who haven't registered, and it's identifying those and ensuring that that we know who is supposed to be on the rental registry and who isn't. So we're working on that right now. Commander Shells has been working on that diligently also.
So again, that's something that's feasible that can be done, is to really try to focus in on some of these businesses.
That is correct. As the chief mentioned, we have about 2,000 businesses that weren't registered. We've just received that information in the last week or two from the county. We're working through that. Part of the registry doesn't allow criminal activity, and we can use that as an enforcement arm through businesses.
So none of these things we're not talking about doing anything more than using what's already available to us in terms of the laws and the ordinances, and just trying to enforce those ordinances that are already on the books. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Councilwoman.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Does that complete your
Yes,
item list there?
that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna make this statement, and I'm gonna recognize the council. So I just wanna be clear that when it comes to the points, we are already utilizing our rental registry. We're already focusing on high spots of crime around business. So those are things we're doing, correct, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. When it comes back to the buyback program is one that we looked at years ago and evaluated before. And I know, correct me, didn't they say also a lot of time the guns that was brought back too was some that the people didn't want, didn't really get all the ones that you want, but we have looked at that in the past, correct? So it's something that's already, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Then when it comes down to the officers in the community, I would like to acknowledge that as part of our community revitalization and stabilization program, we looked at that with our consultants back in around about 2024. We do have the down payment assistance programs. There's also the HEROES down payment. So even with getting officers, and at that time it was called officer in each block, because what we wanted to see, could we actually get an officer to live in each block so the cars would be visible in the community. So that was something that we did look at. Then with the Community Action Agency team, the Captain Bridging was a grant program, correct, Chief? Didn't we get a grant? It's something we first started, and we had the pretty blue cars.
We did.
So we had that. But right now, so we still have officers who are what we call community police officers, who make regular visits in the community to talk with the community, correct? And also we have the Unity and Community program that we've partnered with a young lady whose husband was killed in the line of duty. And she's been working with us and with our police department to do events in the community, correct? Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman E. Smith Jackson.
Now, with this, the one thing I kept hearing you say, city manager, was we need more funds. So all of this will take more funding, right?
That would be correct.
Okay, so currently in our current budget, we don't have enough to do what we need to do right now, correct?
Well, the current budget,
It's
that
balanced.
is balanced, and certainly we had to cut stuff out of the budget.
So
That is correct.
adding all of this, would that include, will we have to raise taxes in order to do that?
No, we wouldn't raise taxes for this, no ma'am. The one thing, as I talked about, if you financially incentivize officers to stay into a neighborhood or live into a neighborhood, we, this council, the chief would have to decide how much money would we do and how much we would do per month for those officers. And then, council would direct staff to find those dollars. Finding those dollars would be, one, I would first ask the chief to find it. Could he find that in his budget there?
The same budget that he had to cut.
He's gonna tell me
Same budget that he had to cut.
So that's the first place I go to. And then certainly we have some contingency, not a lot, but we have a little bit of contingency there. And we'll try to look at other savings. That savings could be salary savings, things of that nature to look at that. And again, I would limit that dollar amount, again, as I talked about, no more than $500 there. And that doesn't get you a whole lot there. We wouldn't be able to pay all of it with 500, but maybe we'll be able to pay half or something. If you go up to $1,000 per month, certainly we would have to lessen the number of officers there. Could we do $10,000? That would probably be $10,000 to $15,000 would be a number that I would say partnership could find in our budgets there. So we'd have to put some limits on anything that we talk about that has budgetary implications. We certainly would have to put some limits on that.
So we don't have the available resources right now.
We could find $15,000.
And that's just on that part, but what about the CAT and the officers, and, because that's just the incentive.
Well,
there was the other, about getting more officers into the community. How much was that grant? Do we remember how much that grant was that we originally got to do that program?
That was a number of years ago, no ma'am, I know.
Okay.
We were able to get 9 officers at that time on that grant.
Okay.
What we would do in that, and of course, kind of putting us on the spot, so we have to talk together a little bit about that. Right now, I do know there are 10 positions in the police department. They are funded positions. We do not have personnel in those positions there. And the first thing I would do, and again, I haven't had a conversation with the chief about this, but can you use any of those positions as the CAT officers? If not, then we would have to add to that. If he cannot use those officers there, we would have to add to those 10 positions.
So we talking about 50,000 times the number of officers that will be needed for the community?
That would be correct.
Okay. And
Plus
we
a
would-
car.
Plus the cars. And so we would have to then budget for that. Right now, this year, we do not have. We would have to.
You'd have to budget for additional personnel.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank y'all. That concludes me.
Well, since we're still outside of Robert Rules of Order, are there any other questions? If not, Ms. LaRochelle, thank you so much for coming forward and creating such a
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, y'all, that completes our appearances before council, and now we'll move into our public hearing. And at this time, there's no objection. I will open our public hearing. It's a public hearing which will be held to receive input on the City of Florence fiscal year budget from 2024 to 2025. Do you have anyone who desires to speak? If not, at this time, we will close the public hearing. Thank you. Yeah, I'll get them. All right, so that closes the public hearing. So next we have our resolution number 2024-2027. And it is a resolution to declare the month of June as a home ownership month in the city of Florence. Do we have a motion?
So,
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. I will ask that city clerk read that for us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is resolution number 2024-27. Whereas owning a home is at the heart of the American dream and is a source of wealth which individuals can pass down to their children and grandchildren, and whereas National Homeownership Month provides an opportunity for all Americans to work together to provide families with the tools and information they need to overcome barriers to homeownership, and whereas homeownership unites families, empowers communities, and strengthens both local and national economies, and whereas homeownership encourages personal responsibility and strong values while creating more stable neighborhoods, civic-minded residents, better schools, and less crime, and whereas on May 31st, 2024, President Joseph R. Biden Jr. proclaimed the month of June as National Homeownership Month to recognize the enduring value of homeownership and to recommit ourselves to helping more Americans realize that dream. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Florence in the state of South Carolina do hereby proclaim the month of June as Homeownership Month in the City of Florence and urge all our citizens to join in this effort to reaffirm our individual commitment to support the dream of homeownership. And it's resolved this 10th day of June, 2024.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. McBride to please come forward.
I guess one of the first things I'd like to say is thank you to the City Council of Florence. A community this size to acknowledge home ownership is a big deal. Now, you've done this proclamation in June, and probably some of those in the audience don't know all the other things that you have done. There have been numerous grants to the City of Florence to build affordable housing. I'm part of the Affordable Housing Board here in the City of Florence. I also they've got a first-time home buyers class that they help make down, the participants get funding to make down payments on buying a first home. I'm also a part of, in April, which is Fair Housing Month. I don't think this community understands the commitment that this council and the governmental entities in this area and the governmental staff that you have, all they do to promote housing here in the City of Florence. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank y'all for doing that as well. This proclamation is great, but I like the fact that y'all put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, and you follow up on this proclamation by making home ownership an important thing here in the City of Florence.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And, okay. Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting that award on behalf of the city, on behalf of the realtors, and the homeowners out there. But one thing I did want to mention, as much as you said that we're doing for the community, and in a couple of minutes we're about to pass the budget that there's no major objections. And one thing in there is to renew the revitalization, the neighborhood revitalization strategy. It has been done, I think, about a little over 10 years ago. So now we're going to take another look at it and make sure that we're encompassing a lot more and making sure that we're keeping the ball going. Secondly is this, I think it's maybe the third time I made this statement. I honestly believe that in the current position of where we're at now in Florence, I believe Florence is slowly but surely becoming the city of haves and have-nots because of the affordability of housing. It was the Community Development Committee, I think Councilwoman Barnes is the chair of that committee, she is the chair of that committee, that brought forth for us to do a housing study, for us to really look at the affordability of housing in this area. Because I know the interest rates are completely high right now, and I understand the totality of that, but I want to applaud this council for taking these initiatives of making sure that study is done and then making sure that we're renewing and updating our neighborhood revitalization strategy. So, thank you for bringing up what we've already done, but want to let the public know that we're continuing to do much more. So, thank you.
At this time, thank you again for coming before us and even acknowledging the council. I would definitely have to recognize our community service department. We have two of our leading ladies who are the ones who are pushing this forward for us. So I would like to thank you and just thank you for all that you have done. A lot of people don't know how long you've been out here in the community serving. So thank you for all that you do.
Yes.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
That's good.
And also, it's important. No one entity can do this by itself. I think because everyone works together, just how you're here, that is what makes success, all the entities working together. So thank you for that. And at this time, we'll move forward with our ordinance positions. And first we have Bill number 2024-10, a second reading. It's an ordinance to raise revenue and adopt a budget for the city of Florence, South Carolina for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2024 and ending June the 30th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Next, we have introduction of ordinance. First, we have Bill number 2024-11 for first reading. It's an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Ordinance regarding tattoo facilities. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we are here from Mr. Dudley.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I have a PowerPoint prepared. However, we are having some technical difficulties from behind the curtain. Oh, here we go. Well, there we go. If I hold perfectly still, maybe that'll hold. So, we were approached as city staff about some of the confusion and the difficulty in locating tattoo parlors within the city. So as staff, we took a look at that, and what we saw was that tattoo parlors or the use of a tattoo facility was lumped into two categories. It was lumped into its own category of tattoo facilities, but in the definition of specialty uses, it was also included in that definition. So it was essentially covered by two different conditions or sections of the ordinance, which created a lot of confusion. Specialty uses in the definition currently has tattoo parlors, as well as shops where smoking tobacco and other products are permitted, shops that principally sell paraphernalia associated with the use of illicit drugs, consignment stores, thrift stores, retail stores that stock some sexually related goods, as well as rental stores and movie theaters of the same classification, as well as pawn shops, bail bonds, payday loans, and title loans. So what we were proposing, or what went to Planning Commission and was approved, was to take tattoo parlors out of this specialty use classification and beef up the conditions that are currently associated with tattoo parlors. So in doing so, we did, and I'll get the pointer here, this is what is currently allowed. As you can see, specialty uses are conditional in the commercial general, the central business district, the activity center, and destination services zoning district, whereas tattoo facilities were only allowed in the commercial general. So it created confusion as to where they could be located. So in taking it out of the specialty use category, what was approved by Planning Commission was to now add all those designations that were included in the specialty use category. So if approved as is, the tattoo facilities would now be allowed in the commercial general, the central business district, activity center, and destination services district. So that is one of the proposed changes. Additionally, and I'll just go down the list of the current and the proposed conditions for these tattoo facilities. On the left is what is currently in our zoning code. Number 1 deals with state code, saying that it has to abide by all of the Unified Development Ordinance as well as additional state codes, such as it be a minimum distance of 1,000 feet from church, schools, or playgrounds. Number 2 is that it will be located a minimum distance of 500 feet from essentially a residential district, or it can be located a minimum distance of 200 feet from the outer wall if it meets other certain conditions, such as it is separated by an arterial street of at least 4 lanes, or it is buffered with a Type C buffer yard. Type C buffer yard is 25 feet, and then that includes per 100 feet 3 canopy trees, 3 understory trees, and 30 shrubs in that area, as well as a berm or a fence. And that signage complies with the standards and requirements in Part 5, that is the regular sign code, and also the added restrictions of no window signage, flashing, neon, LED, or reader board signage, or signs containing animations within the direct line of sight of any adjacent residential district or use. And number 5, that the hours of the tattoo facility will be between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. So that is the current code and conditions associated with tattoo facilities. Now, when we separate it from the specialty use category, we are proposing what's on the right here, which is number 1 would stay the same, that it has to abide by all state codes. Number 2, and this was pulled directly from the specialty use category, is that there's no more than 1 tattoo facility use located within a radius of 750 feet. So that means they have to be 750 feet apart from one another, which reduces a density of this type use. Number 3, it is changing the distance from the residential use, in that it will be located a minimum of 400 feet from the outer wall as opposed to the 500 feet. Number 4 stays the same, where it creates the ability for it to be 200 feet if it meets the buffering requirement or the 4-lane arterial street requirement. And in number 5, we are proposing that signage standards comply with Part 5 with the added restrictions of no flashing signs or reader board signage or signs containing animation. So we are allowing window signage in this place, as well as neon and or LED signs, but again, they cannot flash or contain any animation. And in allowing these types or window signage, we did add number 6, that the use of static window signage is permitted, including neon and LED. However, signage cannot exceed 25% of the front facade window area, and window signage is only permitted within the front facade windows, and the storefront window area cannot be tinted greater than 10%. And number 7, we drug number 7 again from the specialty use category. The security measures associated with the uses do not include metal bars or roll-down shutters over doors and windows, and we left number 8 in there that has to do with the hours of operation. And this is just showing where, the current definition in the definition section of the code includes tattoo parlors, but again, we are proposing to strike that from the specialty use, which will officially separate the two into their own set of conditions. And this concludes staff's report.
Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Thank you for this, Jerry. It's appreciated. It's a lot all at one time.
It is.
And it's a whole lot to try to digest, sitting up here on council, at the last time. What I'd like to see is if we could defer it to the next meeting and give ourselves more time to look at it more closely and to ask questions and to get our questions answered. And I know that, this is something that needs to be looked at very closely and needs to be studied, and some action needs to be taken. But I would appreciate if we could just have an opportunity to push it back to next month and give ourselves some time.
We have a motion on the floor, so are you amending a motion or placing for a motion to defer?
Yeah, this is a motion to defer.
Okay, do we have a second for a motion to defer?
Second.
We have a motion to defer. Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor,
Chair recognizes Councilman Braddock.
we already have a deferment process in place, whereas we're going to have 2 readings for this. I want to say thank you, first and foremost, for the city for picking up this issue where we got businesses that are being discriminated against, over stigmas that are long time past. And so, although I appreciate Councilman Jabali's desire to put it off for a month, we have a second reading where we can look at that. This has gone on way too long. We've had to change our police, if I'm not correct, Chief, we've changed our police policies because tattoos are not the stigma that they have been in the past. We have people trying to start businesses that can't start a business within proximity of a thrift store. Can't start a business within proximity of a movie theater simply because they're a tattoo shop. And at this point, I think that kicking the can down the road again. How did this pass in planning?
It was deferred at the first meeting for us to take a closer look at it, and then at the next meeting, it was passed unanimously.
Yeah, passed unanimously, through planning, so they've had time to vet it, go through it, and I don't think pushing it off 30 more days is going to change whether a tattoo parlor can have a sign in the window stating that they're open. I mean, this stuff that they're talking about, Councilman Jabali, if you read through it, I think that you're going to find it is very sensible, and the fact that it was even classified like that before was inappropriate to begin with. It's purely discriminating against a business based on a stigma from 50 years ago, and right now we have professionals in the medical profession and the police profession. And I have a tattoo in honor of a daughter who passed away, and so I don't think, I think that we'd be kicking it down the can for reasons other than what we're talking about here. It'd be more of a, political reason to kick it down than actual what we're looking to do. And being pro-business is what the city's about. And we don't need to have, long-standing discrimination towards a business simply because people were scared that their child was going to get a tattoo, which the state's not going to allow anyway. So I would ask that we would go ahead and vote.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Lee Smith Jackson.
And I agree with Councilman Braddock. I did have time to look over this, and I did have a question. The security measures, when it says associated with or do not include metal bars or roll down shutters or door, what exactly does that mean?
Oftentimes, bars on the exterior of windows or roll-up security doors, it's a sign of blight. We don't allow that in our downtown areas, and it's, in the specialty use category, we don't allow that, and we brought that over into that. But that it's associated with the security bars or roll-up security, those kind of metal doors that roll up and down over the windows and doors.
Okay. And the fact that it says no more tattoo facility use located within a radius of 750 feet.
That's 750 feet from each other.
Okay,
So
got it.
yeah.
Okay, so each tattoo parlor got to be 750 feet apart from one another.
That's correct.
Got it. I'm ready to.
Any other statements of concern?
I have a question.
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
Sorry, I'm about to go. Just blurt it out. I'm sorry. I got a question. When was the last time that, to your knowledge, that this particular section was amended?
With the adoption of the Unified Development Ordinance.
So it wasn't, cigar shop and hookah bar was already in there with the unified? Okay. If there was any, I guess this is maybe a question now for Ben. If we was to pass this on first reading, if there was any amendments to include not only tattoo parlors but any other entity that's listed in this special use section here, would that require another reading or?
That would be my recommendation if you made a major amendment to it. If you put something truly substantive in or took something substantive out, I would recommend the second reading.
For that particular
Just
addition?
the whole thing, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And I'll just state that, I've reviewed it, and I know that the commission actually passed it as well, so at this point, I'm fine with what I see there. But we have a motion to defer, which has been second. Any other discussion on that deferral?
Well,
Chair recognizes, Councilman Bailey.
first off, with all due respect, this was a request that had no other basis other than it's a significant change that has not been previously addressed since the adoption of the UDO. So I want to make that clear, Brian, the basis for it, for wanting to do that, that it's a significant change, and I understand what you're saying about, that the community views things differently now than they did when it was first adopted. I understand that completely. But if it's the will of council to move forward at this time, then I'll just simply withdraw my motion to defer.
Deferred has been withdrawn, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that bill number 2024-11 has passed first reading. Next, we have bill number 2024-12 for first reading. It's an ordinance to rezone 1401 Fairfax Road from OSR to NC 15, identified as Florence County Tax Map Number 90029-01-005. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
At this time, we are here from Mr. Dudley.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This property is located along Fairfax Drive. It is the site of a single-family residence. It does have a lot that goes back to touch Jeffries Creek and into the floodplain. As part of the, and here's a closer look at it here, but as part of the, when we rezoned from the old zoning code to the Unified Development Ordinance, as you can see, there's a lot of open and recreational space surrounding this site, and it does, portion of this lot does extend into that, and it is indeed the site of a single-family residence and part of the neighborhood there, and should have been zoned NC 15, Neighborhood Conservation 15. And it was picked up in the programs and the logarithms. We've had this trouble before, and we've had to come back and make some corrections. And this is simply staff bringing it back on behalf of the property owner to take it back to the NC 15 zoning designation. That is the recommended future land use for this parcel, and here's a picture of the residence, and any of that portion of the lot that is within the floodplain and within the creek would be subject to all development regulations in that area. So, and City Planning Commission did recommend unanimously 6-0 to approve the rezoning request.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have one.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson.
How long was this zone like this?
Since the adoption of the Unified Development Ordinance in 2018, and it was actually picked up when they had an appraisal done on their house, and they contacted us. And prior to that, the R1 or the large lot single family was in place long before that under the old zoning code.
So prior to 2018, it was zone NC 15?
It was zoned R1, which was the equivalent of the NC 15 in the old code, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it should have been carried over to that. And we went through them as humans and double checked these things, but there's thousands, tens of thousands of parcels in the community, so we missed a few, obviously, and this is one of them.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect that bill number 2024-12 has passed first reading. We'll move forward now with our introductions of resolutions. First, we have resolution number 2024-25. It's a resolution approving an amendment to the conditional grant and development agreement dated May 31, 2020 between the City of Florence and Sticks Land LLC. This item will be discussed in executive session. Next, we have resolution number 2024-26, a resolution to proclaim June 17 through 23, 2024 as National Pollinator Week in the City of Florence. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Next, we will have resolution number 2024-28. It's a resolution to adopt the Community Development Block Grant Budget for the fiscal year of 2024-2025. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion in a second. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Dudley.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The city was allocated a total of $325,064 for the fiscal year 24-25 CDBG budget. City staff has taken the recommendations of the community based on our public hearings and comprised the budget you see before you, which is $65,000 for planning and admin, $200,064 for emergency rehab, down payment assistance of $40,000, and $20,000 to go to My Brother's Keeper. And last year's budget was about $20,000 less, and it had a very similar allocation with, as you can see before you here. I'll back it up so you can see. And this concludes staff's report.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that resolution number 2024-28 has passed first reading. Next, we have report to council, appointments to boards and commission. We have call for our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. We have two boards that have either vacancy or expired term. Our first board is a Parks Commission. I will mention that this appointment will expire June 30th. I would ask that it's deferred. That will go to Councilman Jabali.
Move to defer.
Thank you. Our second board is Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee. There's an unexpired term that will expire on June 30th. I will ask, again, staff would ask that this is deferred. This falls to Councilwoman Barnes.
I will defer.
That completes staff's report.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Next, we'll move forward with reports to council. First is mayor's report. First, I would just like to say that mark your calendars for July the 13th from 10 to 2. We'll be celebrating the second annual PD Youth Day, and it will be at Bond Streets. This event has grown, and we will also be welcoming a group that will be coming out of Columbia and actually from various parts of our state. It's called Raise Your Hand. It's actually an organization that was created through a fellowship that we have. And I'm proud to say that this past Wednesday, I became a graduate of the South Carolina Diversity Leaders Initiative from Midland. And I'm in class number 16, so I'm now also a fellow for the Raleigh's Institute of Diversity Fellowship. And that organization with the fellows there came together to create a program, and it's called Raise Your Hand. It will consist of being sure to be work with young people, especially females, to provide the things they need to be strong enough to become leaders. So I will ask you, come out, because you can see some great things that day. But otherwise, we will also welcome anyone who wants to come out and be a vendor to provide information to our young people. We have nonprofits who will be out there. It will focus on nonprofits for service for the youth as well as for families. But also you will have educational organizations there, as well as some ones who will represent various careers. We will also have law enforcement there as well. So mark your calendar for July the 13th. And please come out from 10 to 2. And if you want to volunteer and talk about your mentorship, come out. That concludes my report, and thank you. So next we'll move forward with our committee reports. First, we'll have a report from the chair of the Business and Business Development Committee.
The Business Development Committee had an informal gathering. We did not have a formal meeting. Our next meeting is going to be June the 27th at 3 o'clock, as I understand it. We will be following up on the work that's initially gotten started with regard to the gateways and the Lucas Street gateway that's currently underway. And as I understand it, there's a Brownsfield grant through EPA has allowed for consultants to be hired, and that we're looking at this Lucas Street from Irby to I-95, and that Stantec is our consultant, and that they'll be coming to speak with our Business Development Committee at that time. So we look forward to that and hearing from them at that time, and that concludes our report.
Thank you for that report. Next, we'll move forward with a report from the Community Development Committee. Chair?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our next meeting will be held, I think, on the 27th at 3 o'clock. We will continue to work on the wish list. We put out a wish list, and as you know, we just approved the budget. But this does not stop us from working all year long. When we come up with items that we need to do or address in the city, we look for the money, we look for grant money, or the staff will find the money. So because we are not identifying monies at the moment does not mean we cannot do anything all year long. We look for ways to get things done. That's what we do. And we're going to continue to work on this wish list. And I think that's it for my Community Redevelopment Committee.
Thank you for that report. Next, we have a report from the chair of the Marketing and Public Relations Committee.
Our update is the city staff did a most recent update, and they got it back from CityBot. And the feedback that was provided from the testing stage will soon be implemented. Once that is complete, a meeting will be scheduled with staff and CityBot representatives to discuss the launch of our new chatbot. So we plan to do a soft rollout of the chatbot initially with the first promotional event to be on June 28th at the Florence after 5. Graphics and other promotional materials have been prepared, and a detailed community outreach plan is being developed to encourage community participation with Cypress. Once in place, the new chat box will provide customers with new communication technology that provides text-based communications, web chat, and text alerts. So the staff is continuing to work with the VC3, the city's IT company, on a redesign of the city's website. So that is still coming to ensure that technology is up to date and that our visual design is keeping up with the current trends and is appealing to our website visitors. So we're constantly working on our website, updating that. Also, the city's marketing and communication team is currently working on the following awareness campaigns. That is recycling, rental registry, and of course, hurricane preparedness as we approach hurricane season soon. So please let me know if you guys need anything. We're asking departments to basically let us know their needs so we can advocate it through our marketing and media campaigns and committee. That's what we do. We want to make sure that we bridge the trust between transparency, communication from our communities with the city. That is our goal. So we're going to make sure we continue to do educational campaign awareness to kind of bridge that gap and get everyone prepared and knowing what's going on with the city. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chairwoman. At this time, we will move forward with a report from the chairperson of the Finance and Audit and Budget Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We met on May 29th of last month, and our CFO, Mr. Kevin Robinson, went over the April monthly financial packet. And again, everything is trending well. No red flags or alarms there. Second, we did discuss the Roundup program and the little glitch that we had. I think it was resolved. It is very minuscule amount, but we was able to get everything back in place. The last thing and the most important thing we discussed was the availability of the opioid funds. For this year, the city of Florence has been awarded $557,484.96. And as last time, we had an application process for which organizations that were able to qualify for this particular funding was able to apply, and council at the appropriate time reviewed those applications and made a decision on who was allocated what amount of dollars. So the next opening for the funds begins in mid-July, and it's open until August 5th. Therefore, today, what I would do is, I think upon the recommendation of city staff, today I will make a motion for us to reopen up the application process. Therefore, when we come back in July, we'll have the applications in place to make a decision, so they'll be able to, those applicants will be able to apply within the next portal cycle. It's the same application that was submitted last time. We'll make sure that the previous recipients are aware, as well as get the word out again to anybody else who's interested in applying for those opioid funds. So again, I will make a motion that we reopen the application process to allow people to apply for the next funding of these opioid funds before the deadline.
I would like to second it.
And so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that the motion has passed. Mr. Chair, do you have any other?
That will conclude our report. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the reports from the committees. At this time, we have 3 items on board for our executive session. The first one is a discussion regarding an economic development project, 30-4-7085. Secondly, a discussion regarding the appointment to boards and commission, 30-4-7081. Thirdly, a discussion regarding an economic development project, 30-4-7085. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Here, none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We stand for executive session.